Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly live stream in the Platformers community. And today we have our amazing guest, George, a director of engineering from MongoDB. George, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here and looking forward to our chat.
Thank you for joining. Where are you joining us from?
Currently in Berlin.
Oh, amazing! Summertime in
Yeah,
Berlin. It sounds amazing. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so, for everyone joining us, I will just tell that we are going to talk a lot about platform engineering playbook and platform engineering and what is the business value and a lot of interesting stuff. If you have any questions during the session, you know the drill, just post them on the comments and we will ask us, but basically George, about your questions. So it's great meeting you today. One of the interesting things that we have discussed is that you are working and almost like going to publish a new book. Is it right?
Yeah. We have been working with Pact on this project for quite some time now. So we started our research in October or November of 2023 or 2022. Um,
Wow.
and it actually took a bit longer than what we expected. We had some changes. We kind of had to pause for a few different moments because we also wanted to follow some of the results of the great work of the platforms work group in the CNCF. And finally, we are now at the place where we are almost ready to publish it sometime late this summer. So probably early August or late July.
Wow, that's amazing. I wasn't aware that it takes like 2 years to work of such a project. So the book called The Platform Engineering Playbook. I will just share the screen so people will be able to see it. You can pre-order it right now, but it will so you can pre-order it. Can you tell us like what this book is all about and what we can learn out of this book?
Yeah, sure. So this book kind of is trying to address a few different personas, both someone in engineering leadership who's trying to understand the why and the how to build a platform team, but also people who are interested to kind of learn the technical stuff and learn common platform architectures and tooling to be used and so on. So we can kind of see three distinct parts on the book. One is how to get started with platform engineering. So we answer the question that we see a lot: is DevOps dead, and is platform engineering taking over? And the role between those, and the business value of platform engineering. Then the second part, we go into the technical aspect of it. So we see common architectures, we see common tooling used in order to build an internal developer platform. And then a big part of that, 4 chapters, which is almost a third of the book, focuses on actually going step by step, building a fully fledged internal developer platform from scratch. And then the third part of the book is focused on platform leadership. So, kind of the different roles a platform leader has to do, future trends, how to stay kind of aligned with what happens in very important projects like CNCF projects that play an important role in platforms. Platform as product, treating your platform as product, which is also a very big discussion. So that aspect of platform engineering.
Wow, that's amazing. Those are so many topics in just a single book. Like I'm really curious about like what made you like come up with this idea of I want to write a book and let's do it.
Well, the idea came so before MongoDB, I was with Citrix, and there I was leading a team called Cloud Platform Engineering, and we were trying to kind of describe what we are doing, try to kind of convince other teams on why what we're doing is valuable, try to show to the leadership what we were doing. And kind of looking online and doing some research, there was very little literature on kind of the benefits of platform engineering, the business value, why do you want to do platform engineering, and so on. So that's kind of where it struck me that there's no good book describing this kind of very growing trend back then. And yeah, the idea was to just try and share our experiences and try to help others to find the information that we couldn't find.
It's kind of amazing because we still see this lack of information and practical knowledge around how to implement, how to think about this future. And I think this book, I'm really looking forward to read it, and can give a lot of the people in the community that looking to learn, looking even to improve their platform, to get this information. So I have to say thank you from all of the community for putting the time and gathering all the resources, your knowledge, your expertise in such a book. I think it can draw and makes a really really good impact for people that want to learn. So let me start. Like you mentioned, it's you started, I know, uh, 2 years ago to think about platform engineering. There was no resources. So what draws you into platform engineering? Like what was the main motivation around it?
Well, I can actually go to better describe it even further back. So I always like to kind of do internal engineering work. So either kind of cloud infrastructure work, DevOps, SRE, internal enabling work. And back in 2016, I joined a scaling company, Scale Up back then. That the mandate was pretty. It was very simple: build something that will replace Heroku. So Heroku was kind of the main infrastructure component back then. And what we had was an ID and an AWS account, and we just could build anything we wanted. Um, the
Wow.
term internal developer platform or platform engineering wasn't something we knew back then. So we essentially did platform engineering before we started using the term. Um, and the idea was exactly that: to build services that development teams could use, and at the end, build a fully fledged platform. Back then, we started leveraging ECS. It was right before we jumped on the Kubernetes train, but we first started with ECS. Um, yeah, and that was pretty much the idea. The developer does a git push, and then everything else is magic. The platform takes over and does the pipelining, does the deployments, does testing, all of the integration, deploys all the whole stack, everything you needed in order to run the application, and that was pretty much it.
Wow. So you actually build a platform without knowing that you are building a platform. Like I have to say that when I think initially I met the term platform engineering, I think, I don't know, a year, maybe a year and a half ago. And I've been in the tech industry for, I don't know, 13 years. And I understand like immediately that what I'm doing from the first day into tech is building platforms, but no one called that way. Like I started with mainframe, so we built some mainframe platforms. It's completely far from Kubernetes, but we build like platform for developers and from system programmers to use our internal so-called product. And then I moved into some other roles, but it's amazing how it hits you in it me in the face that you are doing platform for a very long time. And it's amazing to hear a story about how you build a platform without knowing that you're doing that. But
Yeah,
the main
th-
motive,
this was also kind of going back to why this book. This was also a great motivation as well. Kind of, it's something that's been very important for all of us without us kind of talking about it. At best, we would talk about dev prod or something like that, but platforms is something that we never talked about, and it's the first time that we actually join efforts and we try to kind of define platforms and work on platforms. And I think the impact that it has on the overall development life cycle is huge. So it's very important to kind of evangelize, talk about this.
I agree. And like I think this is great. Like your group, you mentioned the CNCF working with for platform engineering, like all of this stuff really helps to articulate and to mention that. So You mentioned a little bit like what was the value that draw you to kind of build your first platform, but and you mentioned also in the book that you're talking a little bit about business value of platform engineering. Maybe you can share your a little bit of insights around what is the business value of doing platform engineering.
Yeah, sure. So in the book and in real life, I kind of consider four different pillars, four different buckets that we try to affect, to kind of impact when we implement platform engineering. First off is developer experience, making developers' lives easier and better. Second is developer productivity. We have teams now that are dev prod teams, but kind of putting that also in the platform and improving productivity while also improving developer experience is very important. The third part is security and compliance, which is very important as we move to the cloud, and as platform engineering is more relevant to scaling organizations, to larger organizations. So as organizations scale, if you have different approaches to deploying, different approaches to managing infrastructure, different approaches to testing code, then security and compliance kind of becomes a nightmare. So centralizing this in a platform, automating it is very important. And all of those are underpinned by the four pillar, which is essentially promoting best practices, standards, what we call golden paths. And of course, that includes the standards, and the best practices include financial best standards. So that's where kind of FinOps comes into the platform, and that's also a very growing topic on platform engineering, because the cloud bills keep on growing, so FinOps is quite important as well.
Yeah, like we see the cost like from like 1.5 year ago when there was a little bit crisis on the market. We see that a lot of people became very concerned around cost and how do we manage it at scale. And the fact that you can pack together good developer experience, increase productivity, and also reduce the cost in a single state of mind and bring it into developers that would be easy for them to use, that's a game changer. and and I think something that is really important is that, and people do not always think about platform the same way, is that when a challenge arises, the platform can be the catalyst to solve it, and to embrace it, and to share it within the organization. So if now the challenging cost is great, the next challenge will be, I don't know, how we are using AI in our platforms, and maybe the next challenge after it will be how do we do cost optimization with GPUs. So that's maybe going to be our next steps. But you can embed any challenge for that. Can you share a little bit, I don't know, from your experience around what business value makes like the most impact for you, or something that you have in your mind about those business values in
Well,
there?
it heavily depends on who you're talking. So platform engineering is one of those functions where you're going to be talking to different people, and at the same time you have to convince different people. So on the one hand, you have to convince leadership in order to kind of get buy-in, executive buy-in, in order to invest in platform engineering. But you also have to convince the engineering teams, because those are the people who are going to be using it. You need their input in order to solve the right problem, so they also have to be on board. um, I would say when you're talking to leadership, talking about security, compliance, cost optimization, those kind of things make more difference to leadership. When you're talking to the engineering teams, if you talk about developer experience, if you talk about reducing time to market for new features, if you talk about reducing time spent on doing manual tasks for security and compliance and all the stuff that we don't like to do but we have to do, then that's also something that can convince them.
I agree. Like, security was a really big thing, and sometimes when we talk with, like, sometimes we do have in these interviews on sometimes on the back channel, when we try to reach out to people and ask if they want to come into our weekly live stream, we always ask them about the challenges and what they want to solve. And security kind of really arise on the last few months, so it's becoming real challenge. So you mentioned like a little
Well,
bit. Yeah, go ahead.
if you can, a good point on that. Sorry for interrupting you. If you flip it around and don't think about the platform enhancing security, but if the platform is not enhancing security, then it's a single point of failure for pretty much everything in your business. So if you think of it that way, it kind of becomes important.
Yeah, I agree. It's 100%. So you mentioned earlier that in the book you have reference to making platform to be a product, like internal product. So and we have like a debate, like what is a product? How do you define the product, and what is it? What do you think that? What do you think would be like a good internal product, and how teams should be approach owning that product?
Yeah, well, there and now I will refer to the work groups, to the platform works group work. So they are currently working in a white paper on platform as product, and there are two specific points I always refer to when they describe kind of product thinking. And one, the most important thing I think for building product thinking in platform engineering is building deep empathy for user problems and experiences. Because we are building an internal product, the IDP is an internal product with internal customers. Often those customers aren't so well in our process. We don't do kind of qualitative and quantitative research. We don't build user personas, and it is important to build different user personas and really understand what the users or the customers need, who are the other engineers sitting next to us. The other thing I really like, the second thing is they call it ruthless prioritization, which means that everything in the roadmap of a platform team should be justified and should be tied to business goal and business value. And that's very important because, again, as an internal team, oftentimes we don't expect the platform team to be making money. As a platform team, you don't bring in revenue, so it's kind of easy to forget that you're essentially that's what you're there for, either to bring in revenue or to save costs or to actually do something that is measurable. So that measure should be there to help you prioritize what you're doing.
It's amazing because it's amazing like thoughts, because we always think about developer platforms. They do not think in business value terms. It's hard to think about. So it's very hard to quantify revenue. It's very hard to understand like how much do we save, how much do we get. And I really like to see, especially when we are talking about developer velocity. And developer velocity can be a little bit quantified into some sort of money. And I think that it's really helpful for people to understand that when you save like even 10% from your engineer organization, 10%, it's huge amount of time and money. Like if you have 100 engineers for 1 month and you save 10%, you bring back to the company 10 engineers that are not new to the company. They are experienced and already working for the company. And that's a huge impact because it's one or two new teams to the company. And this is really impactful. So maybe you can share a little bit about how you do platform engineering today at MongoDB. I think it will be very interesting to hear that.
Yeah, so MongoDB, I think, is kind of going through the platform journey in a similar way that many companies do so. So the teams that are already there to do internal enablement work slowly kind of grow into building those different platform services. And I think probably the next step naturally in a few years would be to kind of bring those together and actually build a centralized platform team. So what we've seen, and we've seen this in Mongo and we see this in a lot of other places. Naturally, you would have the SRE team and they care about production environments. So they would build a part of the platform that is what we would call runtime, so the Kubernetes clusters and everything that our production infrastructure is running on, and observability and that part of the platform. Then you have the dev prod team, which is responsible and kind of enabling internally, and they are more focused on building pipelines, improving the delivery of our software, and also integrating security and compliance into our delivery. So it's kind of split into different teams and has grown organically. Instead of just providing a service to other engineering teams, you now provide tools, and then those tools, I think, will naturally evolve and become one platform.
Wow, that is really unique like way to build a platform. Like when people ask me, and you see that common arise in the community Slack channel from time to time, like I want to build a platform, like where should I start, what are the people that I should bring in? And my recommendation is quite the opposite from what you just say. Like I'm saying, like you need someone to articulate that, and it can be from DevOps or infrastructure background. They can be the backend developers that really into coming into more infrastructure tasks, but coming into like make it really top down approach when you build a platform and
Mhm.
then people actually adopt it. That's kind of unique, and it's really amazing. I think we can do a live stream only about that.
Yeah, and usually the approach we see more nowadays, that platform has gained a lot of popularity. There are a lot of people who wake up and say, "I want to build a platform," but in companies, and I cannot take credit of that before because it started way before my time. But in innovative companies like Mongo, who move fast, who deliver a lot of great feature fast, and kind of focus on enabling engineering teams, you have to kind of do this iteratively, and the teams that are there, like the dev prod and the SR teams and so on, have been doing that much earlier, like a lot earlier, before we kind of even think of platforms and building a whole thing and so on.
Yeah, it's really amazing what you said, because from what I heard from many people like coming in here and also like questioning, and is that when you want to be very innovative, run very fast, and your competitors are there, like the market is there, and you need to be better than your competitor, this is where platform engineering and development velocity goes to the extreme. Because as you said,
Mhm.
like we need to do more. And in some companies, when they're pretty stable, they have like different motivation around building that. And that's
Yeah.
quite of interesting. So like I know you're very involved with platform engineering in general. Like you, it's not like obvious for someone just to write a book on platform engineering, but you're also very involved in the cloud native community and doing a lot of work for the community. Maybe you can share a little bit about what you do, because I think you have really interesting talks upcoming. So maybe you can share a little bit what you do, and we can help the audience if you're living close to that. And if you want to watch live, we will help you to hook in. So
Yeah. So
I will share that, and if you can explain, that will help us a lot.
yeah, sure. So yeah, June is quite busy. So next week we have two presentations. One is with my partner in crime when we do these types of presentations, who is Dan McKean. He's our product manager, and it's in Platform Con online next week, and it's about how you can build internal developer platforms extending Kubernetes using Kubernetes operators. Um, and then the other one, same topic, is happening in MDC Oslo on Wednesday. And again, it's how you can leverage internal developer platforms to build platform capabilities and platform interfaces as the as is the formal language in the CNCF white paper. We call it platform capabilities and platform interfaces, and kind of how you can build those extending Kubernetes.
So the first month PlatformCon is free for everyone. They can go to the website and basically watch it live virtually. You don't have to be. You can be anywhere in the world, sitting on your couch or your desk, and watch this amazing talk that you are going to deliver there. And Oslo is a physical event, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. In Oslo, it's a physical event. Yes.
So for people from Oslo, I think it's going to be really interesting to learn from George, like not virtually and not in an interview, but actually see him in real action. By the way, people from the audience, we have like a lot of people watching us. If you do have questions, like we are real live right now, and if you have questions to George or myself, but obviously to George is more important, feel free to post them. If you are on Twitter, just comment them on the thread of this live. If you are on YouTube or LinkedIn, you can comment on the video, and we will be able to share those. Um,
Yeah, and
so that's
one note on these presentations. So we kind of mentioned on what we're doing at MongoDB in terms of platform engineering for internal enablement. The interesting angle that this presentation have, they focus more on tools that we deliver. So my team focuses on building tools that enable customer platform engineering teams. So instead of us implementing platform engineering internally, we kind of help our customers go down the platform engineering path, and use our tools to build MongoDB as a service experiences for their teams, and those kind of things. So it's also a trend that is growing as a result of the growth of platform engineering. We see many companies try to provide the tools for platform engineers.
That's that's really awesome, and I think that it will drive a lot of value and people to learn from those. What can you share a little bit about the tooling themselves? Like there are many tools in the cloud native industry and a lot of frameworks. Maybe you have some recommendations on tools to check or something that's worth taking a look at.
Well, yeah, I think if someone goes into the CNCF landscape page, you're gonna see hundreds of projects, and I know it's a bit chaotic. That's why I like the two frameworks or projects. I don't know how I can describe them. Yeah, this is the CNCF
That's
landscape, and for
huge. It's
start,
just huge.
someone who is starting, it can be a bit hard to kind of decide where to start. Um, two projects I really like that can help guide you on choosing tools in order to build a platform is, first off, is Cloud Native Operational Excellence, CNOI, which is essentially provides architectures and blueprints to how to build the platform using cloud native tools. CNOI is not so heavily opinionated on the tooling, but it kind of more provides the overall architecture. One I like even more is what we call the backstack, which is more opinionated on proposing four specific tools. Back stands for Backstage, Argo CD, Crossplane, and Kyverno, which is policy as code framework. And with those tools on top of Kubernetes, you can start by building a very big part of your functionality in an internal developer platform.
Is it this one? No, I think I'm the wrong website.
Yes, this describes it on the Backstage website. But yeah,
Got it. Got it. By the way, for people that do like to learn more about Canoe or CNOE, so we do have in this, like from time to time, we are hosting in this weekly live stream. We do host people only about Canoe. So we have a series about Canoe. The first episode was general introduction to Canoe with demo. The second one was really hands-on in developing using the IDP builder, so you can develop your Argo CD applications and templates and all of that. using a Canoe IDP builder. And the next stream, I think it's next week. Yeah, it's next week. So we are going to have it with Carlos Santana from AWS and Jesse from Citizen from Autodesk. And we are going to code templates live on the session. So it's going to be a really live coding session when we are going to create templates, templating and scaffolding from in Backstage, um, using Backstage Scaffolder, but also using Argo Workflow as workflow mechanism Backstage. So if you want to learn more about Canoe, you're welcome to watch the previous. They are available on the YouTube channel. And also for the next one, join us. That would be great.
Nice. I'll make sure to not miss that one. It sounds really interesting.
That would be amazing. You can join, comment, and you can also going live. And just let me know, and we will add you to the live session.
Mhm.
So now coming back into like challenges and topics, like there are like I would say two main people that always ask themselves, like, what is the next challenge? What should we focus on? Sometimes it's more people starting to think, and sometimes people going through the majority level through optimizing. So maybe you have like 2 or 3 tips for people starting. Like, I want to start platform engineering. Like I heard George, and everything it does makes sense. It does platform for real life. The companies work for very successful, and they are able to get a lot of value out of it. Like, what are the 2 topics or 3 topics that you think they should start with?
Well, first off, and it does not, it is not as obvious as it sounds. I would say is, do you really need the platform? That's always the question you should make sure to ask yourself. We see small teams like 15, 20 member engineering teams that are trying to build internal developer platforms that need 10 people just for the platform, and that doesn't really make sense. So there is a I call it the tipping point. There is a point where the value of you adding features in the platform and integrating new services in the platform is smaller than the combined DevOps effort if you build everything independently. And that's the point. So, on average, we can think of, uh, companies usually spend 15 to 20% of their engineering capacity on DevOps functions. If your team is big enough where that 15% amounts to a lot of people, then probably it makes sense for you to centralize instead of each team doing their own thing. So first of all, I would say make sure that it makes sense for you to build a platform. The second thing I would say is define your approach on how to get started, because we just mentioned about whether you have a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. In most cases, if you don't have very strong executive buy-in, the top-down approach might not work, or it might work very slowly. So you probably have to have a strategy where you build tools and you build solutions, and then you evolve those into a product, into a platform that is a whole product. Sometimes getting 12 months of time of you taking a whole team and a lot of budget and going into a room, locking the door and saying, see you in a year with a full platform. Sometimes that doesn't work. So make sure that the strategy you have is going to kind of deliver value
Yeah.
incrementally. And yeah,
Waterfalling a platform. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it happens. It happens much more than you would imagine.
Yeah. Wow. I couldn't, like, I guess people do that because they want to build, like, I know, the infrastructure layer to be perfect for all the landing zone and the new application they are going to run. And then they want like the perfect CI/CD and everything to be perfect, perfect, perfect. And then no one wants to come, and you are 1 year later with 0 users using your platform, just spend millions of dollars on human resources.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's amazing. So we talked about a little bit about incremental value and how you can do that, how you can start with the tools and then start to build a platform out of it. So those are the people starting with. And obviously, as you said, that do not go into that if you don't really need it. Maybe you have some, I don't know, story to share with us with your early days around building a platform.
Well, I always like to share a specific story from Citrix where, again, this shows the difference between building a platform as product from day one and building platform services. And so back then we started trying to kind of go the full global scale super platform, which was shiny and had bells and whistles and all of the good stuff. And as you can imagine, that didn't go from the beginning very well. So we started focusing on solving problems, building smaller services that will solve problems. And one of the things that we tried to use data and find the big problem was secrets and certificate rotation. So we built a centralized service that managed secrets and certificates, rotated those automatically, and so on. And instead of building the whole platform, we built that service first, and that alone, we did back then a calculation in our Jira, and the manual effort spent by the Citrix Cloud organization to manually do this work, I think was something like 900 or 1,000 story points annually. So automatically with building a simple service, you save one or two full-time people doing that manually, and that
Wow.
shows value right away. And then you can actually take that, replicate it to other teams, to other products within the company, and kind of replicate the value over there.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of time, like not wasted but saved doing that. And I think something that is a little bit behind the scenes, and I want to add my tip for your tips. Always, like, you need to do a lot of product management and innovative work to decide what is going to be very impactful at the beginning. Like, you do want to start with the most impactful thing that you can get. And if you start with a really successful story like the one George just shared, you will be set to success for all the other things, services. If it will be services, it will be capabilities to the platform, doesn't really matter. But start with something that will be successful and meaningful, and not something that would look great on whatever. um, we have one question from the audience. So the question is asked by Mario Antonio Semirano Bravo. Good morning, Mario. The book prepares you to platform engineering certification.
No, no, it's not aimed as kind of a guide to certification. Hopefully, it has enough knowledge to take you there, but that's kind of not the goal of it.
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure, but I don't think I saw so far really good certification around platform engineering. Most, like, I think George made a really good work in making a book that will allow us at some point to understand exactly and to define exactly what is platform engineering, how we can make certification, and how we train people to do this work. So at this moment, I don't think that there is any certification. So obviously, it's very hard to prepare a book for something that uh, um, there is no certification at the
Yeah.
end. So do you have like any, like, we started from tip for start, do you have any tips for people that are more advanced and maybe optimizing their own platform?
I would say as one thing I've been always trying. I used to always try to look, as leading a platform team, was to try and stay ahead of what other teams are doing. So one of the things that you should be doing as you plan your roadmap is essentially you have to build today what other teams need to be using in probably 2 quarters time. So working with other product managers and other engineering teams and trying to understand what will be important to them in 6 months and try to solve the problems that they will have in 6 months. That's something that will keep on driving you moving towards the right direction.
Sorry, I was muted. So amazing, and I think that that will help you optimize. So I have like two more questions, like, for the end of the interview, and I want to ask you, like, like platform engineering, we are kind of in the beginning of it. I would say it as a full term and as a full solution and community around it. How do you see the platform engineering future in 2 or 3 years from now?
Well, first of all, we have to agree on what it is. So I think most importantly, over the next, I guess, year, we will probably end up to a very solid definition of platform engineering and IDPs. I'm trying as much as I can always to mention platform capabilities and platform interfaces, which is the wording that CNCF uses, which I really like that. But we have to kind of all be on the same page on what it is, why we're doing it, and kind of how we're doing it. So I think that is one. Um, the other part is about the teams evolving. Again, we've kind of seen a lot of teams doing what we mentioned. One part being kind of having the cloud infra team being responsible for the Kubernetes infrastructure and the dev prod team building pipelines and other stuff. We will see more companies taking advantage of what we call Conway's law, which is kind of designing teams that will output the software that you want them to output. One very common discussion topic we have these last weeks with a few people in my team is that Kubernetes is probably not the end game for platforms. Kubernetes is a great declarative API to manage workloads, but it wasn't designed to kind of be so flexible that we want for workloads. So the more you kind of dive deeper into Kubernetes and you play with the API and you play with different controllers and you try to extend as much as you can, you see that you kind of reach Kubernetes' limit. So maybe we will see more and more projects arise like KCP and so on that try to build on top of the declarative API and take advantage of that and then control the workloads in a different way. And the last part, I would probably say I expect a big consolidation in the CNCF ecosystem. So at the moment, we see a lot of different tools solving similar problems. So yeah, I think we will see tools kind of being combined and working together and becoming bigger projects and less projects in number. And that will also kind of change the landscape for platforms a bit.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. I think that what you mentioned about Kubernetes, like obviously, like any infrastructure technology, it's not here for last forever, but it's very interesting to see where you experience the limitation of Kubernetes and what you think can be a good solution for the future. But we don't have enough time for now to do that. So maybe in the future we will talk about Kubernetes limitation, because I think that Kubernetes is great, but it just every infrastructure has its end, and people will always try to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
So before we are wrapping up the session, first of all, George, I want to say, like, thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge, expertise, your book, and all the hard work you're doing for the community. I think it's great for me to hear that from you, and also for the other people joining us today to hear that. And one more thing is that thank you for writing this book. I think it brings a lot of value to people, to for them to understand what is platform engineering, learn about platform engineering. So if you do want to have this book, you can pre-order it today and get it when it be released. Um, you can read in Amazon. We will put the link, and I will also add it. It's also on the comments, but I will post it in here too, so you'll be able to see it. Something that we are going to do away, we are going to open a raffle for this book. So if you want to get this book, you can also register to the raffle. We are going to post it in the next week. And we have a few virtual copies that George sponsored for us, and we will be able to share it with the community. So that's great. George, any last thing that you want to say today?
It was a huge pleasure. I didn't even see how the time passed. I thought we just started. So It was a great discussion. Really enjoyed it, and thanks for this great stream and kind of spreading the word that platforms are doing.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching. If you want, next week we are going to do deep dive episode 3 about CNOE or Canoe, whatever you call it, with Carlos and Jesse. Join us. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.